Hey there, welcome to this quick tutorial showing how to take textures and apply them to an image to get, really in just a couple minutes, something that's got a really rich feel to it, kind of a fine art look. Really simple to do, like I said, really efficient. I'm all about getting the most out of my images in the least amount of time, and frankly that's because I'm lazy, so I'd rather be doing something else than sitting here at the computer. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So what I did is just open up an image that I want to apply textures to. In this case, this is my beautiful bride Kylie. For demonstration purposes, please disregard the fact that I cut her arm off awkwardly in this image. That's not the point here, so thanks for overlooking that. Anyway, so then I'll just go ahead and I've opened up a couple textures that I'm going to apply kind of randomly. One of them is florentitious, kind of just because it's fun to say. Then there's one that's Watermark. I do like this one a lot just because it's got a lot of detail and a lot of warmth to it, a lot of grit. And then finally one called Bronze Pavone or Pavone, because in Italian pavone means peacock, or at least I hope it means peacock. And that's what this texture reminds me of. All these are 300 DPI files. I've just shrunk them down to kind of a thumbnail view just so you can see them in this demonstration. So to get started, I'm just going to start with one of these textures. I'll start with florentitious, and I'm just going to drag this right into my image that I want to apply it to. So the way to do that is select your pointer up top here and then just click and hold shift and just drag it right in. And by holding shift, it just centers that when it places it in the file that you're dragging it to. In this case, the texture matched the size of the image perfectly, and that's because for me I shot them both the image and the texture with the same camera, the Nikon D3, and so it's the same file size or image size. That may not be the case for you when you drag these in, and if so, just make sure the show transform controls is selected, and then you can resize this however you need to. If you hold down the option and shift, at least on the Mac side, that lets you scale it proportionally, or you can just free transform it by not holding anything down. So anyway, let me undo that there and go back to the original size here. And now that I've got the texture in here, I'm just going to come over here and play with the blend modes of this layer. Most of the time when I deal with these textures, I kind of camp out on these three here: overlay, soft light, hard light. I just like kind of the look they give me. Some of these others are a little bit more drastic. Every once in a while I'll do multiply and screen and occasionally one of these others, but most of the time I'm right around overlay, soft light, and hard light. So for this one, I'm just going to start off with soft light, and I like what's going on here. I like how you can see the crackly texture and a little bit of detail out here. I think that looks pretty good. What I don't like is how you can see the crackly texture on Kylie's skin. And there's a couple ways to remove texture from areas that you don't want it. I'm going to show you two of them. The first one is kind of the way most people remove texture, and it works pretty well for a lot of situations. There are a couple where, in my opinion, it doesn't work very well, and that's why I'll show you the second method after this. But for this first method, to get rid of this texture here on her skin, I'm going to go ahead and just create a mask on this layer. And then I'm going to come over here and get my brush tool and make sure I've got black for the foreground color. I'm going to set the opacity of that brush to 100%. And then I'm just going to brush out that texture. And I'm just going to do this pretty quickly. I'm not going to get too detailed here for the demonstration purposes. If this was an actual print image, I would zoom in and get a lot more cleaner brushing. But I'm just doing it pretty quickly here. So I think that looks pretty good. Now I want to add a little bit of depth to this, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in my next texture. I'll just go ahead and hit watermark here. Another way you can bring this in, if you don't want to just use your pointer and drag it in, is just to select the whole image. So on the Mac it's Command A. I would guess on the PC that's probably Control A. Don't hold me to that. Now I'm just going to copy it. For me, I'm just going to do Command C on the Mac or Control C on the PC. Click back on my image, and then I'm just going to paste that. You can Command V on the Mac, Control V on the PC, or you can just come up here, Edit, Paste. And now I have this next image in here of this watermark texture. And I'm going to go ahead and try a different blend mode here. Let's try overlay on this one. That's pretty interesting. It's a little harsh as is, but I'm going to go ahead and lower the opacity just a little bit. And then also on these textures, one of the great things about them is they're completely customizable in terms of color. If you don't like the way the color looks on this texture, you can just go up to Image, make sure you've got the texture layer selected, Image, Adjust, Hue Saturation, and then you can just start playing with the hue, get all kinds of different looks here, or if you want you can just come in with a saturation and bring it down to kind of a neutral color where you can still see the texture but there's really no color to it. I'm going to leave it where it's at now, I just wanted to show you that for demonstration. And again, I've got this texture on her skin. I like what's going on out here. I'm going to lower the opacity just a little bit more. I don't like all the grit that's going on her skin here, so what I could do is like I did the previous time, I could just add a mask layer and just go paint this out. What I don't like about it in this case though is, you see how you have the warmth of this texture? Well, if I just mask this out, I'm going to lose that warmth. And I don't want to do that. I like the warmth of the texture, the warm skin tone that it gives. It's a little bit kind of overly warm, but I like that in this particular case. So I am not going to use the masking texture here. Let me get rid of this mask. And instead, I am going to use a different technique. I think I learned this from, honestly, I can't be sure, but I think it was Ross Benton a couple of years ago, and it works great in this case, where you're just going to open up a new document. It doesn't really matter the size as long as it's close to the image size that you're working with. Let me shrink that down so you're going to be able to see this. And then you're just going to fill it with a color, and the color is not going to matter. And just to demonstrate that, we'll pick some nice hot pink here and fill this whole document with that color. And now you're going to use your healing brush tool, not the spot healing brush tool, but the healing brush tool. And what that does is it pulls texture from a reference area and applies that texture to a target area. In this case, I don't like the texture that's on Kylie's skin, so I'm going to take this new document that has no texture, and I'm going to use this as my reference area. And so on the Mac side, it's just Option click to select a reference area. I'm just going to go somewhere in the middle here. And then I'm going to come over here to the image, make sure I've got the texture selected. I've got my healing brush here, and make sure that you're on current layer so that it's pulling from this document back here. And then I am just going to start painting, and you're going to be like, oh my god, she's painting her pink, what the, but just be patient here, let it go, and you're going to see that it's going to replace the texture on her skin with no texture from this document, but it's going to keep the color of this other watermark texture that I just added. So, and I really like the look of that, and so I'm just going to go ahead and do that again for a couple more areas. I recommend that you keep the brush strokes kind of confined here, a little bit small. If you try and brush too much at one time, you're going to get a lot of weighting because it takes a little bit of horsepower or computational power to go get rid of all this texture. This is a pretty large file. It's a 300 dpi file, so you can see if I brush too much at one time, it's going to take a lot of time for my computer to catch up. So I may not do the whole thing here just for demonstration purposes, but I'll go ahead and get a little bit more here. And again, I would do it a little bit cleaner if I was actually doing this for print, but let me just do a little bit here. That's fine there. And just a little bit more down here. And then we're going to call it a day for this particular step here. Let's see here. One last section. And we'll call that good. So that looks pretty good. In most cases, I might even stop there. You'll see, actually, I had one little hiccup here. What happened is on this, I was pulling from a reference area. Well, when I brushed up too high in this document, I got to the top of this. That's easy fix. Just go back here, reselect a reference area. I'm going to option click again, come back in here, just click over that, and there you see it's fixed it. So now, like I said, in most cases that looks pretty good, but I'm going to go ahead, since I've got 3 textures opened up, I'll go ahead and add this one, the little bronze pavone. So I'm going to go ahead and go back and click on my cursor, hold down shift, just drag this in here, and we'll try another blend mode here. We'll go hard light this time, and you'll see that's pretty harsh. I could just soften it up to overlay or soft light. You know what, I actually kind of like the hard light. Let's leave it there, and I'm just going to lower the opacity of that. And in this case, I'm also going to just take out the color of this texture because it's getting a little bit too warm for me. So select that texture layer, just come up to Image, Adjust, Hue Saturation. I'm going to take the saturation of that down, and you'll see a little bit more of a getting rid of some of that extra warmth I had in there that was in that texture. I'm going to leave it like that, hit OK. And now I need to get rid of this texture a little bit on her skin again and maybe some on the dress. And in this case, I'm not worried about losing the color of the texture because I took most of it out, so it's a neutral color. So I'm just going to use the mask again. I'm going to come in here and add a mask to this layer, hit my brush. 100% and just kind of get rid of it on the skin here again. In some case, sometimes I won't get rid of it 100%. I'll maybe lower the opacity of my brush to about 50-60% and leave a little bit of that texture in there. You can do that if you want to, and I do it sometimes, but I'll just, for this demonstration, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it at 100%. So I may lower it a little bit though. Let's go down to about 40%ish or in that area, and just get rid of a little bit on the dress so it's not quite so such a dominating characteristic on the dress. I think that looks pretty good. I might lower the opacity just a little more, and I like that because I get just a little bit of that floral detail on the outside there. So as you can see, I think that's pretty much it. That's all I would do to this image. Here's the before, here's the after. I might go in and clean up that color a little bit, take out that color, but I think that's pretty good. As you can see, it's just super easy to do. Only took a couple minutes, and there's just 1,000 different ways you can combine these textures and layer them and change the blend modes to get all kinds of different looks. So hope that helps. Have some fun, be creative, and God bless. Thank you.